Hello, ma'am. Hello, classmates. Good afternoon or good evening. We are the PNG group, which is Pacheco, Nico, and Hines. And we will be reporting about Unit 3, which is the project preparation and resource mobilization. And I will be sharing my understanding about the project proposal. Okay, so what is project proposal? A project proposal is a document that describes a proposed project and its purpose, outcomes, and the steps that will be taken to complete the project. So when we talk about project proposal, it is a document that outlines everything that you want the stakeholders to know so that they could initiate a project. So it is necessarily a first step towards getting a project off the ground, or it is what you need to do to have a go signal when it comes to your project. So while the actual elements of the project proposal differ depending on the project itself, there are several key elements of a project proposal. So including project background, objectives, and project scope. So whatever kind of project proposal or project that you have, these are the elements that should be seen in your proposal. So project background, these are the problems, the challenges, or the opportunities that exist, and that's the reason why you come up with this project. And objectives, these are intended outcomes of this project. And when you talk about your project scope, these are the steps or the stages of the project and the elements that are included in this project. And with your project scope, this is how will the objectives be reached through this project. So project proposal should set expectations, detail budget and timeline, as well as as well as set the expectations for what project would look like. So importance of a project proposal. What is the importance of project proposal? So first, you have the project understanding. Okay, the purpose of a project proposal is actually to describe the services and outcomes from a potential service provider. So decision makers can actually compare it and pick the best provider for their needs. So it should be considered a sales document that persuades. So remember that when it comes to project proposal, it is a way that persuades the decision maker or the stakeholders. Uh, uh, you persuade them to approve your project. Okay, so one of the importance is the project understanding. So what does project proposal shows? One is the project understanding. A project proposal outlines the purpose and scope of a project. This is helpful before a project takes place, and it ensures both parties agree about what the project itself would include. So it actually states the decision maker or stakeholder that the service provider understand the scope of the project. And with the project proposal, it actually helps establish trust between the parties that will facilitate the transaction agreement later on. Okay, next importance is establish credibility. Project proposal establishes credibility because a project proposal should be seen as a sales tool that helps establish credibility. It should actually communicate to this decision maker or stakeholder that the service provider is capable of completing the project and fulfilling the expectations. This is done by detailing how the project will be completed, and the project proposal may also include potential risks or complications and how the service provider will overcome those challenges. So, number three importance, we have propose an estimated timeline and budget. As I've said earlier, project proposal is a way of how you communicate to those decision makers and to the stakeholders. So how are you going to persuade them? You need to propose an estimated budget and timeline in your proposal. A project proposal proposes this so that this document actually is not a formal contract, but it will provide the stakeholders enough information about budget, the timeline, and outcomes to determine whether or not to move forward with the project. And if so, it will make an informed the contractor or vendor decision. So it is really important because you are showing, showing or showcasing everything that the stakeholders, the decision maker needs to know. Another importance is you set the expectations. So in addition, a project proposal also sets expectation for the client relationship. This includes having a mutual understanding of deliverables, timelines, and budget. While the project proposal is not a contractual agreement, it does set a preliminary agreement that the details in the project proposal will be put into the contract if the project moves forward. So that is the importance of project proposal. Remember that understanding what a project proposal is, why is it important, and how to approach a project or proposal successfully can help you more effectively write and deliver a project proposal. Because a well written project proposal informs and persuades and combines project management skills with a few other essential skills like research, data analysis, and some copywriting. So now we move forward to the things to consider before writing a proposal for a project. So before you sit down and begin writing your project proposal outline, there are some things you must consider including. First is your audience. Okay. Next is your potential pitfalls and the data and research. Why do you need to consider the audience? You need to identify who the decision makers are and determine the relationship between them, because each stakeholder will have their own goals and preferences. And you should make sure that how familiar your audience or your stakeholders will be regarding this project or problem. What do they already know or what do they not know? So you could include that in your proposal. So what do they want to hear? You need to know your audience, no, what they wanted to hear, or are they specifically more of the timetable, something like that. So is there any particular way to make them better understand what you want to convey? So for example, if your audience is a head of a technology department, you use the jargon and technical language because they will be able to understand that. But if your audience is a small business owner, you're trying to win over, use simple, easy to understand language with the proposal, highlighting the project's positive impact on on the company's bottom line, because that is what your audience wants to hear if they are a small business. Okay. So another one is the pitfalls. You need to consider everything, about the potential pitfalls of your project. So a paper from the Project Management Institute, Global Congress by Francis McNamara, cites four basic reasons why projects proposal get rejected. First, they are poorly defined proposals, proposals not aligned with organizational goals. Some proposals project benefits not clearly and credibly defined, and some proposals are ineffective project proposals presentation. So in essence, certain projects fail to receive the green light, not because they're bad projects per se, but because the proposal lack clarity and persuasiveness. So you need to look at your pitfalls, okay, so that you could have a perfect proposal or project proposal, or not perfect, but actually a outcome based project proposal. Okay, now we move on to the third thing that we need to consider before we write a proposal is the data and research. You need facts, you need figures, you need graphs and charts to substantiate your proposal and justify the project's existence. Research past projects, both successful and unsuccessful, because you'll need as much hard data, evidences, and examples as you can provide to craft a convincing proposal. So what do you need to do? You need to gather everything, because this is not a chismis, but actually a facts, no, that will persuade um, your clients or your stakeholders or the decision makers to understand what you are trying to tell them, or how, or what are you actually offering them. Okay, so before you begin writing, you should be able to answer the following questions. What will be what will you be doing? How long will it take? How are you doing this project? How much will it cost? How will you be doing it, or where will it be done, or who will be doing it, or how much will it cost? So these are the questions that are actually should have an answer already before you write a proposal. Now we move on to how to write a project proposal. I have here 7 steps. First step is you define the problem. What is actually the problem, or what's the problem your project is trying to address? Why is it a problem? So why is it worth solving? So make your audience see the problem the way you see it. So you should let them see through your eyes. Okay, so tips for defining the problem: start strong. Decision makers usually don't allot much time to look over a proposal. So make sure that the pain point is as described and in a manner that resonates with them. So another one is use facts, not opinion. Although you want your audience to understand the severity of the problem, we don't want to exaggerate it. Instead, use data from your research to back up your assertions. Okay, so step two, present your solution. How will your project solve the problem? Why is your solution the better option over other similar solutions? So discuss why other solutions won't work for the situation. So anticipate questions and objections. Be prepared to defend your solution from all angles. Be ready to explain why your more expensive solution is better than a less expensive one, for example. So present the solution's larger impact. Okay, stakeholders generally get more excited about projects with wide-ranging effects than those with limited impact. So again, facts over opinion. So provides as many research-backed examples as you can. So step three, define your deliverables and success criteria. This section provides a picture of the functions and attributes of the deliverable, plus how to know if the project is successful. So include a delivery date. Define what your project will deliver, or describe what you are offering them, or the outcome or the expectations, and what user can expect from it. So such, for example, a cloud-based phone system, it's accessible 24/7 from anywhere. So that's an example. You need to describe everything, no? About the outcomes of your project. So if it is a customer service project you're proposing, indicate when you plan to complete the deliverable. So make sure that your solutions are smart. When we say smart, it is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So step four, state your plan or approach. This is the most critical section of the proposal and discusses how to achieve the project's objectives. It starts with an explanation of the approach and why it is relevant and effective. It also explains how problems will be managed. So introduce your project strategies. Will you be using the traditional waterfall approach? Why? Will you be using third-party contractors, in-house staff, or consultants? What will their objectives and responsibilities be? So everything will be detailed, no? In some sense that you wanted to persuade, no, your target client, your stakeholders. This is your opportunities to discuss the why behind the decisions you're making to get the project completed, and explain how problems will be addressed. This explains your project management plan risk mitigation strategies. Okay, so step five, you outline your schedule and your budget. So provide as much detail as possible. Break your budget down into categories such as supplies, tools, salary, etc. So include all overhead and indirect costs. A detailed financial breakdown will signal to stakeholders that you're done your research and don't intend, okay, to waste your money. So know that certain projects may require financial statements and funding resources. So be concrete, don't guess. Provide project start and end times. So, and if certain sections of the project can be done simultaneously. Okay, step 6, tie it all together. End your proposal with a conclusion that briefly summarizes the problem, solutions, and the benefits. This is what they wanted to hear. The problem, the solution, and the benefits. Emphasize the significant parts and make your proposal stand out by restating ideas or facts you want your audience to remember. Check your proposal for consistencies of ideas and whether the elements support each other. So tips for trying everything together. Your proposal should read like a book. Your proposal should tell a story. Every section and element must work together to form a cohesive whole. So refrain from introducing anything that doesn't fit. Be careful not to introduce anything that seems off or doesn't contribute to the overall objective of the project. So make sure all project proposal elements are present. So check your document and ensure all the necessary elements have been addressed. And step 7, edit, proofread your proposal. So rewrite your proposal as necessary to make it interesting, helpful, clear, and persuasive. Ask for feedbacks and ensure the proposal is organized and visually appealing. So check the tone of the language. Your proposal is intended for a certain audience type. So make sure the tone and language used are reflective of that. So don't forget to proofread for grammar, punctuation, or spelling mistakes. You want your proposal to look professional. Okay, so there are actually types of proposals: the solicited, unsolicited, the informal, renewal, continuation, and supplemental. So when we talk about solicited, these are respond to a request for proposals. Unsolicited, sent without an RFP or request for proposal. Informal, it is sent in response to an informal client request. Renewal, of course, sent to an existing client to encourage them to renew services. The continuation, sent to remind an investor that the project is underway and to provide progress updates. And supplemental, sent to remind an investor that the project is underway and ask for additional resources. Okay, so those are different types of proposals. Now we move on with what is resource scheduling. Okay, so resource scheduling are people, equipment, place, money, or anything else that you need in order to do all of the activities that you plan for. So every activity in your activity list needs to have resource assigned to it. So before you can assign resources to your project, you need to know their availability. Resource availability includes information about what resources you can use on your project, when they're available to you, and the conditions of their availability. Okay, so scheduling resources can be complicated and time-consuming process, but it's also a crucial piece of the puzzle when it comes to getting project done. That's because the very essence of resource scheduling involves organizing your team. Your team is made up of living, breathing people who work hard, but there are still limitations on how much they can get done in a day. So what some project resources are easy to control. So for example, the equipment and the facilities. So your most valuable resources are actually your people. So your people are a little more challenging to organize. So resource scheduling gives team leaders a smarter, more efficient way to assign tasks to their team based on their capability and availability. Not only does this process allow you to monitor a project from start to finish to make sure it goes smoothly, but it also gives your agency a way to utilize your people so they're working more efficiently. So again, what is resource scheduling? So resource scheduling is a process used by teams to organize and structure their employees so the tasks they need to complete are scheduled based on availability and capability. Okay, so using this process, team leaders can allocate and assign people tasks without over allocating their schedules. So resource scheduling can be used to assign and monitor projects from start to finish, schedule people based on skills and availability, assess time delays and speed bumps so you can reshuffle tasks and deadlines to stop a project going off the rails, analyze how well resources are being utilized and reassign tasks to people who are not working to their full utilization rates, and track project estimations and outcomes to make future scheduling easier. So those are uh, the use of the resource scheduling. So we move on to the 5 steps of resource scheduling. First, you need to break down tasks within a project. That is your first step. You need to figure out what task you need to tackle on a project. Start by looking at the project as a whole and then breaking down each part into individual tasks. So creating accurate estimates of how long each task will take is one of the hardest parts of resource scheduling. If team leaders don't have a way to track how long tasks have taken in the past, they may not have much to work on. That's why time tracking is such a valuable tool, as it provides insight into how long each task typically takes. Okay, so step two. Okay, step two, we have, okay, step two, we have look at your resource capabilities. So this step goes beyond just looking at who has space on their calendar for a project. You need to make sure people with space on their calendars or are free are also has or have the skills required to get the work done. So the easiest way to do this is to have a database that tracks the skills of all your team members so you can quickly match up the tasks with their schedules. So uh, you are not just looking at the time, but also the capabilities, the skills that those humans or those employees of you has. Okay, so that the job will be done accurately and properly. Okay. Step three, schedule tasks on team members based on their availability. So this time, when you schedule your resources, sometimes this is what is hardest to do, no? The availability, especially if it is a skilled worker. It is being called upon by different tasks. Okay, it is needed in every task, so the availability is important. Uh, Nowadays, availability is very, what do you call this, open, no? You can go to one place to another, so it's very without actually riding a or traveling. You just need to click on your computer. But schedule tasks to team members based on their availability. Now that you know which tasks need to be worked on and you verified your team has the capacity to get things done, it's time that you start assigning tasks to your team based on their availability, because it is important that you have an accurate estimate of how long this task will take while you're assigning them. Take a look back at the past projects that are similar to the one of those scheduling to get an idea of how long you should allow for each task on your team's calendar. So manage and monitor resources as the project progresses. So it's crucial to monitor how individual tasks are progressing so your project doesn't get knocked off. Case point. Okay. So if a team member calls in sick or takes some vacation time, you need a plan to reassign their tasks or move their deadlines forward. This is why resource utilization is so important. So if every creative on your team is working at 100% capacity, there's no room for error. Okay. So step five. Okay. Step five, we have track the actual time spent on task activities. Finally, track everything so you make the project run over smoother. But tracking how many resources you use on each task as well as time it took to complete them, you'll be able to use that to tighten up your future schedules. So this data can help you course correct along the way and schedule projects that help your team work more effectively without burning out. Okay. So project schedule also defines the team members and resource needed to complete tasks. So project scheduling is fundamental for planning and control in project management. So all the work necessary to complete the deliverables is accounted for in the project schedule. It also includes all associated costs as outlined in the project budget. Clearly, the project schedule is an essential tool to deliver a project on time and within the budget. So um, that is my report about the project proposal and the resource scheduling. Thank you.